The United States stands at a precipice, a critical juncture in its history. A silent, invisible threat looms on the horizon, one that could strike without warning, capable of plunging the nation into chaos and darkness, disrupting every aspect of our daily lives. This is not a threat of conventional warfare, where battles are fought with guns and tanks, but something far more insidious, a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, or HEMP, attack. This type of attack can cripple our nation in an instant. Our interconnected world, reliant on a delicate web of electronics, is acutely vulnerable. Every device, every system, every network is at risk. A HEMP attack could sever the threads of our modern way of life, cutting off the very lifelines we depend on, leaving us reeling in the aftermath, struggling to comprehend the sudden shift from light to darkness. Imagine a nation without power, without communication, without the ability to connect with loved ones or call for help, without the basic infrastructure we take for granted. Roads would be empty, cities would be silent, and the hum of daily life would cease. This is the stark reality we face, a potential future that is both terrifying and all too possible. The potential consequences of a HEMP attack are staggering. The power grid, the backbone of our nation, could collapse, plunging millions into darkness. Homes, businesses, and entire cities would be left without electricity, the lifeblood of modern society. Communication systems, essential for emergency response and maintaining order, could fall silent. First responders would be unable to coordinate, transportation would come to a standstill, and healthcare services would be severely disrupted. Hospitals would struggle to operate without power, and the fabric of society, already strained, could unravel. Civil unrest and disorder could spread as people grapple with the new reality. Our vulnerability stems from our reliance on technology. We have built our lives around digital devices and electronic systems, embracing the digital age, but in doing so, we have created a single point of failure. Our dependence on technology is both our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. Our power grid, a complex and aging system, is particularly susceptible. It was not designed to withstand the surge of energy from a HEMP attack. A high-altitude HEMP detonation could generate a surge of energy, cascading through power lines, transformers, and electronic systems, leaving devastation in its wake. The impact would be immediate and far-reaching, affecting every corner of the nation. The threat is real, and the time to act is now. We can no longer afford to ignore the warnings or downplay the potential consequences. We must confront this danger head-on, bolstering our defenses and preparing for the unthinkable. Public awareness and government action are crucial. We must invest in strengthening our infrastructure, developing new technologies, and creating contingency plans. The future of our nation may depend on it. Together, we can build a more resilient and secure future, ensuring that we are prepared for whatever challenges lie ahead. A high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, or HEMP, is not a weapon of brute force, but of subtle and devastating disruption. It is an invisible enemy, capable of crippling a nation without firing a single shot. To understand the threat, we must first understand the science behind it. A HEMP attack involves the detonation of a nuclear device high above the Earth's surface. This detonation releases a burst of electromagnetic radiation that travels at the speed of light. This radiation, when it interacts with electronic systems, generates powerful electrical surges that can overwhelm and destroy delicate circuitry. The effects of a HEMP attack are not limited to a specific geographic area. The electromagnetic pulse can travel for hundreds, even thousands of miles, affecting a vast region. This makes HEMP attacks a strategic threat, capable of paralyzing an entire nation with a single detonation. The most concerning aspect of HEMP attacks is their ability to disrupt critical infrastructure. Power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, and even basic appliances rely on electronic components. A HEMP attack could cripple these systems, throwing our nation into chaos. Understanding the invisible enemy is the first step in defending ourselves. We must acknowledge the threat, comprehend its potential consequences, and take steps to mitigate its impact. Only then can we hope to protect our nation from this silent and devastating weapon. While the threat of a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, HEMP attack is not new. Recent technological advancements have made it far more dangerous. The emergence of hypersonic missiles has significantly increased the risk, exposing a critical vulnerability in US defenses. Hypersonic missiles are a game-changer in warfare. These weapons, capable of traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 5 times the speed of sound, are extremely difficult to detect and track, let alone intercept. Their maneuverability adds another layer of complexity, allowing them to evade existing missile defense systems. The combination of hypersonic speed and maneuverability makes these missiles ideal delivery systems for high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP attacks. A nuclear-armed hypersonic missile could evade US defenses, detonating at high altitude and unleashing a devastating high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP over a wide area. Our current missile defense systems, designed to counter traditional ballistic missiles, are ill-equipped to handle the unique challenges posed by hypersonic weapons. These systems rely on early detection and interception, which is extremely difficult with hypersonic missiles due to their speed and unpredictable flight paths. The vulnerability of US defenses to hypersonic missiles is a serious concern. It exposes a critical gap in our national security, leaving us vulnerable to a devastating high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP attack. Addressing this vulnerability must be a top priority, requiring significant investment in research, development, and deployment of advanced missile defense technologies. A crisis ignored government inaction and media complacency. The threat is real, the consequences potentially catastrophic, yet there seems to be a dangerous lack of urgency in addressing the high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP threat. Despite numerous warnings from experts and the clear evidence of the potential devastation, the response has been tepid at best. Both the government and the media have failed to adequately address this looming crisis, leaving the American people vulnerable and uninformed. The lack of comprehensive coverage and decisive action has created a false sense of security, making it seem as though the threat is either exaggerated or non-existent. While some within the government acknowledge the HEMP threat, concrete actions to bolster our defenses and prepare for the aftermath have been slow and inadequate. Meetings and reports are not enough. What is needed is a robust and well-funded strategy to mitigate the risks and ensure rapid recovery in the event of an attack. The focus on other, less existential threats, often driven by political agendas, has diverted resources and attention away from this clear and present danger. Budget allocations frequently prioritize short-term political gains over long-term national security, leaving critical vulnerabilities unaddressed. The media too has failed in its duty to inform the public. Instead of providing in-depth analysis and continuous coverage of the HEMP threat, news outlets often focus on sensational stories that drive ratings but do little to educate or prepare the populace. Instead of raising awareness about the HEMP threat and its potential consequences, the media often downplays or ignores the issue altogether. This lack of coverage contributes to a dangerous ignorance, leaving the public unaware of the steps they can take to protect themselves and their families. When covered, it is often sensationalized or relegated to the realm of science fiction, further obscuring the very real danger we face. This portrayal diminishes the perceived seriousness of the threat, making it easy for both the public and policymakers to dismiss it as improbable or exaggerated. This lack of urgency is deeply troubling. Time is of the essence, and every day that passes without significant action increases our vulnerability. The clock is ticking, and the longer we wait, the harder it will be to mitigate the potential damage. The government's primary responsibility is to ensure the safety and security of its citizens. This includes preparing for and defending against all potential threats, no matter how unlikely they may seem. A HEMP attack, while not imminent, is a possibility that cannot be ignored. Ignoring or downplaying a threat as significant as a HEMP attack is a dereliction of duty, leaving the nation vulnerable to a potentially catastrophic event. The consequences of inaction could be dire, affecting millions of lives and the very fabric of our society. The media, as the watchdog of democracy, has a responsibility to hold the government accountable and inform the public about critical issues. By failing to do so, they are not only neglecting their duty, but also undermining the very principles of a free and informed society. By failing to adequately cover the hemp threat, the media is not only neglecting its duty, but is also contributing to a dangerous complacency among the populace. This complacency could prove disastrous in the face of an actual hemp event, leaving the nation unprepared and vulnerable. The importance of self-reliance, preparing for the unthinkable. In the face of government inaction and media complacency, the responsibility falls on individuals to prepare for the unthinkable. We live in a world where the unexpected can happen at any moment, and often the systems we rely on may not be able to support us in times of crisis. We can no longer afford to rely solely on external entities to ensure our safety and well-being. The reality is that in a major disaster, help may not arrive for days or even weeks. This is why self-reliance is crucial. Self-reliance is no longer just a virtue, it is a necessity. It means being prepared to handle emergencies on our own, without waiting for someone else to come to our rescue. We must take proactive steps to protect ourselves and our families from the potential consequences of a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP attack, which could disrupt our lives in unimaginable ways. This could include prolonged power outages, disruptions in supply chains, and a breakdown of law and order. Imagine a world where the lights go out and don't come back on for weeks, where grocery store shelves are empty, and where chaos reigns in the streets. The first step is to educate ourselves about the threat. Knowledge is the foundation of preparedness. By understanding what a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP attack is and how it can affect us, we can take the necessary steps to mitigate its impact. Understand the potential consequences of a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse HEMP attack and the impact it could have on our daily lives. This includes everything from losing access to electricity and communication to facing shortages of food and water. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it could be the key to survival. The more we know, the better prepared we will be to face the challenges that come our way. Once we understand the threat, we can start taking practical steps to prepare. This includes creating a comprehensive emergency plan that covers all possible scenarios. Creating an emergency plan. Discuss potential scenarios with your family and develop a plan for communication, evacuation, and reunification. Make sure everyone knows what to do and where to go in case of an emergency. Stockpiling essential supplies. Gather enough food, water, medicine, and other necessities to last for an extended period, potentially weeks or even months. Think about what you would need if you couldn't leave your home for a long time. Securing alternative energy sources. Invest in hand-crank radios, solar chargers, and other off-grid power solutions to stay informed and power essential devices. These tools can be lifesavers when traditional power sources are unavailable. Learning basic survival skills. Familiarize yourself with first aid, fire starting, water purification, and other essential skills that could prove invaluable in a grid-down scenario. These skills can make a significant difference in your ability to survive and thrive. Self-reliance is not about paranoia or fear-mongering, but about taking responsibility for our own well-being and that of our loved ones. It's about being proactive rather than reactive. It is about empowering ourselves to face uncertainty with courage and resilience. By preparing for the unthinkable, we can ensure that we are ready to handle whatever comes our way with confidence and strength. The Bible does not specifically predict an EMP attack in the end times. Questions concerning an EMP attack in the end times are similar to questions concerning a nuclear attack in the end times. Does biblical end times prophecy allow for it? Yes. Does biblical end times prophecy explicitly predict it? No. The Bible predicts war in the end times, and another world war is definitely possible. However, the Bible does not predict any specific modern weapons that will be used in end times conflicts. The idea of an EMP attack is interesting, though. If EMP attacks were launched worldwide, rendering all technology useless, the world would essentially revert to a state comparable to that of 2,000 years ago. This would mean that the biblical reference to swords, horses, etc., in the end, times could be understood literally. Isaiah 2, 4, Ezekiel 38:15, Revelation 14:20. But this is speculation. Most interpreters of Bible prophecy believe the Word of God is simply describing the end times wars figuratively, using terminology familiar to the people who lived at the time the prophecies were written. So, could an high-altitude electromagnetic pulse be a part of the end times? Definitely. Does the Bible predict that an electromagnetic pulse will return the world to the dark ages during the end times? No. If you liked this video and found it to be informative, please give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button, and please share with a loved one. Remember, we are all in this together, and God is with us and in control. And God bless you and your loved ones always.